Everyone, welcome back. Johnny B here, Johnny B Codes, and this is day 7 in our 30 days of API challenge. In the last lesson, we learned about API keys. We got that working in Postman. In this lesson, we are going to finish that up, what I promised at the beginning of last lesson, where we do that in Xcode with our app and display it in a table view. So let's get cracking. I'm going to open up Xcode. And we're going to be starting out here in our network service. And we're going to need a new function. And I'm going to go ahead and copy our getCatImage URL function just to save us some time. Come down here to the bottom, paste that. I'm going to rename this getCatBreeds. Save that. And then coming back up to the top, we named this image base URL when we were just using it to get images. That's not really accurate anymore. So I'm going to refactor this. I'm going to right click and say refactor, rename, and we are just going to call this cat API base URL. So that's more generic and accurate for what this base URL is. All right, so coming back down to our new function, getCatBreeds. We have our completion handler, and we're going to start out by just returning an array of strings. And just for starting out, I know we have a ton of information in here, and we're going to get to that in the next lesson where we go over models and the Codeable protocol, so be excited for that. But for right now, all we're going to do is get the name from here, okay? So that's what we're going to return. We're going to return an array of the names. All right, so let's take a look here. So we're going to say let breeds endpoint equal URL string cat API base URL, and then our endpoint is just breeds. And I'm not sure why I was doing some kind of duplication here. We can just do this right here. We can say guard let URL else return right up here at the top. Very good. And I'm going to create a variable for my API key. So I'm going to say let API key equal. Now I'm going to paste that. And then for our header, we need to do something a little bit different. So previously we just had let task URL session, and all we did was pass it the URL. To give it a header, what we need to do is we're going to create a URL request object. And then we're going to add a header to that. And the way we do that is we say var, I'm going to say URL request, and that is equal to a URL request. And we initialize it with the URL still. But then we say URL request dot set value, okay? So we set a value for an HTTP header field. And the value is our API key. And the header field, that is the name that we were told to use in our authentication right here, x-api-key. And this will sometimes vary from API to API. Sometimes you'll see something like bearer token or authorization or API key. Just kind of depends on what that API calls it. So here we're going to say x-api-key. And that's all we need to do. We have added our header to our URL request. And instead of passing in the URL, we pass in the URL request. Very good. So the rest of this is the same. We still have our URL session data task. Instead, we're passing the URL request, and that'll include the header. We check for any errors. We check for the response type and the status code. We get our data. And right here, yep, this is correct. We are going to be getting an array. So we have an array of dictionaries. And so it's looking pretty good. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of this part right here. And I'm just going to create a temporary variable here for our cat breeds. I'm going to say var cat breeds is equal to, and this is going to be an empty array of strings. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to rename this right here to breeds. So this is an array of dictionaries. And the way we're going to get the name from that is like this. We're going to say for cat in breeds. And remember, we're just going to be getting the name for now. So I'm going to say let name equal cat. And then the key for that is name. And again, I'm getting that from our results here. We have our Postman results, and we can see that we have an array, and that in each JSON object, we have a key name with a value, okay? And so this value is the name for that cat breed. So we have name, and I'm gonna go ahead and just cast it as a string and provide a default value. I'll say no name found. And then we're going to append this name to our cat breeds array right here. So I'm going to say cat breeds dot append new element name. And once that has completed, we are going to have our completion with cat breeds. I'm going to save that, and to test that, let's go ahead and open up our view controller, and let's just call that right here in view did load by saying network service dot instance dot get cat breeds, and we're going to be getting an array of names, and I'm just going to say print names. Save that and run it, and if everything goes according to plan, which it looks like it did, we can see down here in our console a whole bunch of cat breed names. So that is looking good. We're working. Next up, we need a place to display these values. That's going to be our table view that we saw earlier. So I'm going to open up a new tab, open up our storyboard. And first thing I'm going to do is embed our root view controller in a navigation controller. So I'm going to click on it, and then down here in the bottom right corner, you click there and you can embed it in a navigation controller, just like that. And then to kind of reclaim some real estate here, some screen real estate, I'm going to get rid of our cat facts label here. Then I'm going to move this, add back a constraint for it. So I'm going to add a top constraint 20 from the top. And then I'm going to select right here our navigation item, open up our right-hand panel, and I'm going to give the title cat facts right there. All right, that's looking pretty good. And then we're going to need our new button. So I'm going to select our UI image view here. I'm going to come over to our size inspector, and I'm going to remove our bottom constraint to the get cat fact button. So I'm going to remove that, and then we can drag it up a little bit. And then I'm going to select our get cat fact button, hold option and drag, and that makes a copy of that button. And then we're going to come over here to our connections, and we're going to remove the get cat fact IB action that carried over from that copy. So I'm going to remove that. And then we're going to constrain this button. I'm going to constrain it 20 from the right, 12 from the bottom, and 20 from the right. I think I said right over here, left, bottom, and right. So add those three constraints, rename it to learn more. And that should be good. We need to re-add our bottom constraint to our UI image view here. So I'm going to click here, add that bottom constraint. We'll say 20 and save that. Now let's go ahead and wire up our learn more function here. So I'm going to create another IB action right here. So I'm going to say IB action, and we're going to call it learn more clicked. And we'll save that, come back to our storyboard, right click on our cat facts view controller, and we are going to drag over our learn more clicked IB action we just created, and drag it to our Learn More button and say Touch Up Inside. Very good. All right, next thing we need is a view controller to transition to, and that's going to display our table view. So I'm going to right-click on our project here and say New File, Cocoa Touch class. This is going to be a UI view controller, and we're going to call this cat list VC. And I'm going to say Next and Create. And here's where we're going to have our table view. And we're going to do this part programmatically. I'm going to kind of speed through this part, fast forward a little bit. Once I finish each section, each function, go ahead and pause it and type it in. So first thing we're going to do is we are going to need a table view. So I'm going to say var table view of type UI table view. And then we're also going to need an array of cat names. I'm going to say cat names is equal to, we'll initialize an empty array of strings. And then I'm going to create a function here to set up our table view. So I'm going to say setup table view. So that's set up. We're going to call that right here, setup table view. And then down here, we're going to create an extension. I like putting my delegates in extensions. So I'm going to say extension cat list VC, and this extends UI table view data source and UI table view delegate. And then here we're going to need our, you can let it fill it in yourself. Just once you get that error, you can say fix, and that'll give us the number of rows in section delegate method and the self or row at method. So here we're going to be returning the cat names dot count. So however many cat names we get, that's how many rows we're going to have. And then for the cell, we're going to say let cell equal table view dot DQ reusable cell with identifier, and that is cat cell, same as right up here. And then for the index path, we say index path. And then we say cell dot text label dot text is equal to, and we get the corresponding cat name for that cell by saying cat names index path dot row, and finally we say return cell. All right, so that takes care of our table view delegates. Finally, we need to call our request. So we say, I'm going to create a new function for that. I'm going to say func and get cat breeds, and I'm going to say network service dot instance dot get cat breeds. All right, so we got our function get cat breeds, and once we get our result back, so I'm going to call this cat names. Got a little bit of naming inconsistency here, but we'll fix that. And then I'm going to say self.catNames is equal to the cat names that we get from our network request. And then finally, I'm going to say self.tableView.reload data, so that once we complete our network request, once we get back that array of names, we can reload and our table view will populate. So let's go ahead and call get cat breeds right here, save it and run it. And that's not going to work yet because over here in our first view controller, we have, so once we click on our learn more clicked button, we need to transition segue to our cat list view controller. So we can say let VC equal cat list VC, initialize that. And then we can access our navigation controller and say navigation controller dot push view controller. We want to push the VC and animated is true. Let's save that and run it. All right, let's click on our get cat fact. That's still working good. We click on learn more, and sure enough, there we have our list of names of our cat breeds. So hope you enjoyed this lesson, learned about API keys. In the next one, we're going to learn about Codeable. So hope you're excited for that, and I'll see you then.